Hello, beautiful team, the Army of Light Earth Division, the boots on the ground. It's Shawna L. Francis, and today is June 20th, 2023. Thanks so much for being here, for joining me for today's weekly briefing. We're talking about the ascension. We are also doing a lot of talking about the negative reptilian influence here on the planet. This is really what it's all about for me right now and this mission. And from what I can tell, it's really up for you guys as well. That's why you're here. You're here for a reason. We are here, light workers, light bringers, way showers, uniting here to help bring light, love, consciousness to the planet, to help bring awareness to what's been going on with the negative reptilian influence here. It's a huge part of my mission. So I'm so glad that you're here and that I can share this journey with all of you. I appreciate all your love and support more than I can even say. So thank you, team. You're the best. I love you so much. It's been a great week, really. I'd say the last couple days, I've been really tired, pretty kind of tapped out. Also, a big appetite. I'm just wondering if it's kind of a hormonal thing. I understand that the Schumann resonance is going crazy. I don't know much about it. I don't follow it that closely. And of course, we've got the beginning of summer tomorrow, June 21st, the summer equinox, summer solstice. Anyway, maybe all these things are contributing, but how are you guys feeling? How's everybody doing? Hopefully, you're doing awesome and amazing. I want to let you know that Mark Simpson left the hospital yesterday and is doing better, or was that today? Sorry, I'm losing track of time. So he's doing better. We're going to get on a Zoom tomorrow and catch up. But thanks everybody for all your prayers and sending all your loving, healing energy to Mark this past week. Also, before I get into this, I want to do a quick call out for another Army of Light member, Tracy J. She has started a new practice as a past life hypnosis practitioner. She's asked that I give her a shout out on this video today, so I'm doing that. If you are interested in meeting with your guides or learning about your past lives or learning about your future lives or your concurrent lives, Tracy would be a great resource. Visit apastlife.com. I'm going to put her information in the description. I really hope I remember to do that. I always forget. I'm going to try to remember to put Tracy's info in the description below. Past life regression. Good luck with your new practice, Tracy. All right, back to this week. Melchizedek did come in briefly a couple of times. We had a kind of a more lengthy discussion 2 days ago about fentanyl, and I will tell you more about what led into that. I'm finally digging into more of the detailed backstory of the negative reptilian presence here in the universe, the galaxy, this part of the space that we share, Earth, humanity, and beyond. And, it's been kind of dark and it's been really hard to just fathom what's been going on. I've been, thinking about this a lot. I did get this book in the mail here, this Alien World Order, The Reptilian Plan to Divide and Conquer the Human Race. This is Len Kasten. I talked about this book last week. I'm nearly done with the audio book. I do have, I want to follow up and reread it kind of word for word and kind of ingest that a little bit more. What's really troublesome, in terms of what I read this last week are all the atrocities during kind of World War I, World War II, all the testing on humans also that were going on around this time. Just unconscionable, like to the kind of war crimes that the author has described. And he attributes it all to kind of this, he doesn't use the hive mind, he doesn't say the word hive mind or that phrase, but the negative reptilian control. There's just no way that some of these crimes could be perpetrated by the average person. I mean, these folks have no compassion, no empathy, no consciousness, to be able to do what they've done. And he cites that there's a lot of proof out there. There's photos of some of these atrocities that were carried out, and we're talking about, like, just really awful, like raping and mutilating women and children and men even, and just some of these horrific things that we did to the prisoners of war. I'm it's mostly was, they're talking mostly about the Germans, the Japanese, and the Russians. Excuse me. Um, I'm sure these atrocities are happening all over the place. I'm sure, in the United States we do similar types of things. It's just, like I said, it's hard to imagine what's been going on, and what humans are capable of when they're under this mind control manipulation by a race such as the reptilians, who just absolutely don't care about us as humans. We are, food for them. We provide them with their luge, their fear energy, the life force that helps keep them going. This is all a really big, grand game to them, and they feel like they own us, like we are chattel. So anyway, it's been hard to read through these things and to understand it. So this is kind of where I started with Melchizedek. Oh, and then on June 14th, I read about fentanyl showing up in Mexican pharmacies. The LA Times did some investigative reporting on how some of these drugs that are supposedly painkillers, like Percocet or Vicodin, or even antibiotics, being laced with fentanyl. They tested some stuff. So I'm going to talk a lot more about this, but I'm just really was in this space, like, how can all this be happening, and really feeling like this is the negative reptilians. So I asked about this, and I'll try to put a link to this article in the description as well. YouTube does not like you linking outside of YouTube, but I'll see what I can do. All right, so on Father's Day, by the way, happy belated Father's Day to all the dads out there. Um, June 18th, I just I reached out, as I always do, to Melchizedek. Know that I had talked to them a couple of days earlier, and they had shown me basically a dam that's springing all these leaks. And they're just like, Shawna, we're still, trying to control this, the timeline adjustments, what have you. They've been very busy. This war is wrapping up, this galactic war. So I've had, like I said, not a whole lot of conversations with them, but uh, they did talk to me about fentanyl 2 days ago, and some other things. I said, hello, Melchizedek, are you here? And I had asked a couple of days earlier, can anybody tell me about fentanyl? What is happening with fentanyl? So finally they came in and they said, hello, Shawna, we're here. And this is on June 18th. I'm like, hello, how are you guys? It's great to speak with you. They said they're doing well. How are you? I said, I'm doing good, feeling good, at a place of peace. However, I am, feeling pretty distraught by what I'm seeing in this book about all these war atrocities, and how awful the negative reptilians can be, and how brutal of a species they can be, and how horrifying it is to read this. I said, I'm starting to think about how some of the worst things that have ever happened in the humanity's history has been somehow perpetrated by the negative reptilians. And I asked, is this my imagination? Is this really going on? Can you talk more about this? And they said, yes, Shawna, we understand perfectly where you're at mentally, and trying to understand and, quite honestly, fathom the suffering, the injustices, the travesties that have been enacted upon humanity. The subjugation, Shawna, they said, in some cases so complete, And yet you get a feel for just how ruthless this species can be, and has been, and could be in the future. So your thoughts and your feelings and your projections into the future are probably not too far off in terms of what they are capable of doing. I'd really just sat down and I just thought about today and the homelessness and the mental illness and the drug addiction, the fentanyl and all this. And I'm just thinking this has got to be a wider negative reptilian program. It's amazing what they're capable of doing. And Melchizedek continued here. Now, what they end up doing and how they end up doing it has yet to be seen, is yet to be seen. They said here, there are many directions this could go. But in any event, in any case, we are prepared. We have anticipated this time, and the light will be fully employed, anchored, and able to stave off the escalating push by the negative reptilians to keep your species to stave off the escalating push by the negative reptilians to keep your species under control, suffering, and in fear. I said, thank you so much, team. And they said, Shawna, we are prepared to speak with you about fentanyl. And again, like I said, I'd asked for a couple of days, can anybody talk to me about fentanyl? I said, oh my goodness, okay, team. And they said, let us work with your energy field for just a few minutes before we get started. So I got quiet and I just felt my heart open up and kind of go deeper into more of a trance before they started. I'm going to give you a little bit about this, and then I'm going to talk to you more about just the background of fentanyl. I do think it's really important, especially after what they had to say. They said, Shawna, of the fentanyl crisis, you're absolutely correct in that this is a larger program being enacted by the negative reptilians and those on the planet who are doing their bidding. It's a far-reaching and widespread push of this highly addictive and toxic substance that is ultimately meant to kill humans. Okay, so this was my fear this week, that this was, after reading about what they're capable of doing in terms of the mind control and just the atrocities, I thought, you know, fentanyl, these addictions, these overdoses, this has to be part of the negative reptilian agenda. And on Saturday or on Sunday, they did confirm this. They confirmed that this was the case. They said a person is lured in by the quote unquote high, but the body quickly breaks down with the effects of this substance in the body. It also has a devastating effect on the neural pathways in the brain and the brain's chemical balance and makeup, thus making this substance so highly addictive. It is engineered to remove a person's critical thinking, objectivity, and willpower to try to quit taking this drug. They said here, the substance has been around for decades, and the negative reptilians have just been waiting for the perfect time to roll out this program to the masses. Okay, so they say the masses here. From what I can tell, and I didn't do a whole lot of research tonight, this seems to be really this is really a big United States problem. I'm not sure, and maybe some of you folks who are in other countries can tell us in the comments below. You know, is fentanyl hitting your streets? Is it causing, you know, widespread overdoses, deaths, that kind of thing? It seems to be it's more of a USA problem at the moment, but sounds like this could expand and escalate pretty quickly. All right. They said here, you see, Shawna, how the synthetic substances have escalated in terms of potency, dependency, and now widespread availability. Also know that as those who are aligned with the light work feverishly to curtail the substances in the populace, the next substance has already been developed and is waiting in the shadows to be released when the time is right, after fentanyl has been curtailed. And they said here, as you've read, Shawna, the negative reptilians are very patient. And as we've said, they are very calculating. All right, so I want to go into this a little bit more. All right, June 14th, the LA Times put out an article saying that fentanyl tainted pills now found in Mexican pharmacies from coast to coast. And obviously, I'm in Mexico all the time, and I host folks there through my Airbnb casitas, and so this is a big deal. And in reading through this, really, what they tested several pills. They said this is the LA Times article, some of the pills looked just like antibiotics, others were unlabeled white tablets, several mimicked well known American pills, and a few came in sealed bottles. They were all purchased in Mexico at legitimate pharmacies from Tulum to Tijuana and at the northwest border with California, and at least half of them were fakes. Okay, so earlier this year, the Times found that pharmacies in several northwestern Mexico cities were selling counterfeit pills over the counter, passing off powerful methamphetamines for Adderall and deadly fentanyl as Percocet. All right, but then the LA Times came in, they did a wider investigation and found that this is much more broad than previously understood. Sometimes they said they were buying single pills like a Percocet or a Xanax and they were laced. Otherwise, full bottles that were sealed from legitimate pharmacies were also tainted with fentanyl and other things, by the way. They tested 55 pills from 29 pharmacies in 8 cities, including the Los Cabos area where I go all the time. More than a third of the opioid painkillers tested were counterfeit, the vast majority positive for fentanyl. There were 40 pills that they tested. One tested positive for a weaker medication, another had no drugs at all. Meanwhile, 12 of the 15 Adderall samples tested positive for other substances, including methamphetamine, and in one case, MDMA, the designer drug commonly known as ecstasy. All right, so this really got me thinking, like, what is going on here? What is fentanyl? And this is a potent synthetic opioid drug approved by the FDA for use as an analgesic for pain relief and as an anesthetic. It's approximately 100 times more potent than morphine and 50 times more potent than heroin as an analgesic. Okay, and we're wondering, like, why did fentanyl use increase so quickly recently into the US? And I read here, border restrictions make it harder to move bulkier drugs, resulting in smugglers' increased reliance on fentanyl, which is more potent and easier to transport in small quantities, and as pills, making it easier to traffic. Okay. How is it abused? It can be injected, snorted, smoked, taken orally by pill or tablet, or spiked onto blotter paper. All right. Illicitly produced fentanyl is sold alone or in combination with heroin and other substances and has been identified in counterfeit pills mimicking pharmaceutical drugs such as oxycodone. And as we know, they're lacing cocaine and other drugs with this, unbeknownst to the user, and then they end up ODing on it. It takes just a tiny, tiny little bit to cause a death. Okay, so it's incredible. So I did a little bit of research tonight. In 2014, this is when we first started seeing fentanyl come onto the scene. Before then, it really wasn't a thing. It wasn't part of our drug trafficking. It wasn't part of the overdoses. And also remember, all the oxycodone, the opioids, those kinds of things were really making headlines in terms of overdoses. Now, really, fentanyl's been taking over all the headlines, and the growth has just been absolutely exponential. So again, in 2014, we had 5,400 fentanyl deaths. By 2017, that was 56,500, tenfold increase. By 2021, 70,000 deaths. By 2022, they're saying 110,000 deaths from opioids, mainly from fentanyl. And then also, I noticed in the research that over the last couple of years, that heroin for the first time is declining in deaths, declining. Fentanyl is taking over. It's taking over. They said the rate of overdose deaths involving fentanyl spiked 279% between 2016 and 2021. Yeah, so this is no accident that this is happening. Um, the DEA said that last year the United States suffered more fentanyl-related deaths than gun and auto deaths combined. All right. The DEA is seizing fentanyl at record rates. In the first 3 months of 2022, they seized 2,000 pounds of fentanyl and 1 million fake pills. This is enough. This is enough fentanyl to kill each and every American. That's how much fentanyl was seized by the DEA. And here's a quote that I want to read by an administrator of the DEA. Fentanyl is the single deadliest drug threat our nation has ever encountered. Fentanyl is everywhere, from large metropolitan areas to rural America. No community is safe from this poison. We must take every opportunity to spread the word, to prevent fentanyl-related overdose deaths and poisonings from claiming scores of American lives every day. They said here that fentanyl is involved in more deaths of Americans under 50 years old than any other cause of death, including heart disease, cancer, homicide, suicide, and other accidents. Okay. Prince died of a fentanyl overdose in 2016. He was 57 years old is all. He thought he was taking Vicodin. Tom Petty died in 2017 as well. He was 66 years old. He overdosed on fentanyl and oxycodone plus sedatives. And he was having some hip pain, I believe. There's a country singer, Luke Bell, who died at the age of 32 from a fentanyl overdose. U.S. Grammy-winning rapper Coolio died in 2022 due to fentanyl and other drugs in his system. Where's fentanyl coming from? Well, if you don't know, it's Wuhan. It's Wuhan, China. That's where the bulk of the fentanyl is coming out of, and all the parts of fentanyl that are the precursors to fentanyl are being produced, coming out of Wuhan, China. So it's produced there with little to no oversight, I read, and the Mexican cartels, they buy it, they add it to their stuff, and then they are importing that into the States. We're buying it in the States. And now obviously they're adding it to the pharmaceuticals in a lot of the tourist type pharmacies in Mexico. I understand too from the research that I did that it's easy for China to ship fentanyl to the United States directly, ship it directly to Mexico. There's no oversight here yet. And there's a lot of people working very hard to try to stop this. It's super cheap and it's easy to work with. I saw a documentary in Tijuana, a lot of people who are now addicted to fentanyl, no longer addicted to anything else. It's all just fentanyl. You can pay $1 to get a fentanyl pill versus $10 to get a pill like an oxycodone. So it's everywhere and it's really inexpensive. All right, so thanks guys for allowing me some time to get into that. I thought this was important background, and I'm going to continue with what Melchizedek had to say about fentanyl. Okay. I said, thank you so much, Melchizedek. I said, this is horrifying. Can you please be a bit more specific about the inclusion of fentanyl in other pharmaceutical drugs and other pills? I said, is it being injected into food? Could you tell us more about the plan in terms of the negative reptilians, in terms of making this even more pervasive on the planet, more accessible, for example, being added into our food supply or what we're drinking, if that makes sense. And they said here, Shawna, the mainstream media may never speak about the systemic poisoning of the population at large by artificial substances manufactured in labs by those who are largely unaware that they are partaking in a grand scheme, a grand game conceived of by the negative reptilian regime. Okay. Yeah, like, you hear this or you read about it and you think, well, this is a conspiracy theory and this isn't true. This is just, this cannot be happening. Melchizedek, I channeled it directly. It's just really hard to comprehend this systemic poisoning of the population at large by artificial substances. And I know most of you here who watch this channel, who are drawn to these messages, a lot of this. This has been many years that this has been out. Where this is not new to many of you. I think for me, I've just been in so much denial, and I just have not wanted to believe it, to be honest. They said, Shawna, fentanyl is just one such substance, and it receives more of the attention, of course, which it deserves because of its swift and devastating effects, outwardly observed by others. As you can imagine, there has been over 100 years of focused efforts to create synthetic substances to not only to help humanity and move humanity forward, but in fact to harm as well. And they continued here. Once again, there may be just a small handful of people who are in the know of what some of these compounds can do. Your Food and Drug Administration, those in the government to test these substances, do not quite yet have the capabilities to fully understand the totality of the effects of these substances have on the human body, the human mind, and the human energy field. And they say here, that is not to say that there aren't incredible advancements being made within the pharmaceutical industry that do provide health benefits and relief for minor to major ailments present in the species today. It's also not to say that there aren't people who have humanity's best interests at heart as they do their work. This allows the pharmaceutical companies and other companies who manufacture these compounds to continue to operate and to continue to have the power that they hold. Melchizedek continues here. Fentanyl, Shawna, represents one of the most egregious attacks waged on the human species. This substance will be reined in, but not before much damage and widespread casualties. And of course, there are impacts to the family units and others who may never touch the substance. This is all part of the plan to help keep humanity's vibration as low as possible while still being able to function. They still need us functioning here. I said, thank you so much for that, Melchizedek. I said, what can we do today? What can we do to get against something like this and all these other toxic substances that are rolling out as part of this agenda? And they said here, Shawna, the first step is being aware and conscious of the idea that the average human would never wish this upon another. This is not a human construct. This is not a human agenda. Humanity is victim to these ministrations. And it would be very, very difficult for a human to fight their way out and free themselves of this substance once they're addicted. So always compassion, love, and understanding should be at the forefront of your actions. Melchizedek says here, you may wish to hold the vision of humanity in perfect health, free from addiction, not needing to rely on synthetic or artificial substances for health, peace, and longevity. And of course, visualize this for yourselves. Hold the entire medical infrastructure, the pharmaceutical infrastructure, in a state of light. High vibrational light where safety, care, and healing are the tenets that drive these programs. Visualize it and see it clearly. And finally, they said to those highest leaders perpetrating these programs, send them unconditional love while visualizing the cessation of such programs. Oh man, it's just so heavy. I thought these were really beautiful recommendations from Melchizedek. So always, team, remember the power of your thoughts, the power of your individual energy fields, and the power of this collective to really enact change. Really know it. Know that as you hold the light here, as you visualize this, as you know this to be true, that this light has already won. These help create the energetic field that makes this possible. Okay. I said, thank you, Melchizedek. Team, is there anything else you'd like to say about this subject or anything else? And they said, dear ones, you are loved so very much, loved and supported. These are dark times. It's a dark passage for many. Know and understand that the ability to see these egregious plots against humanity in the light is a gift. Bringing awareness to these programs moves humanity closer to a state of consciousness that will not be subjugated and controlled, but instead knowing that you are sovereign and free. They said here, we understand it's not easy to see your fellow brothers and sisters suffer in such ways. Love and compassion are the frequencies that help release these shackles. These are your most powerful tools, dear ones, in this war. Let it be so. Okay. All right, guys. So that's really everything I wanted to cover today. We don't really know exactly what's coming. We can see what's around us. We can see what's happening and what the different things that are being talked about in the mass media. Know that also in the middle of all this chaos and all this suffering, there's a ton of light happening as well. There's a ton of love happening. There's a lot of good going on. Let's not lose sight of this. If you're only kind of watching the news, reading the news, and thinking that this is all that's going on, that you're really missing the larger picture here. And that's how the mass media really wants you to think and feel. They want you to be like, oh, be scared of this, be holding all of this and just feeling a lot of anxiety and desperation, suffering. These are all the things that are being perpetrated by the negative reptilians. So as light workers here, as Melchizedek just said, it's important that we understand the bigger picture, that we understand that this is not a human thing, that we would never do this to each other. This is being perpetrated by an outside force, in this particular case, the negative reptilians. Okay, guys, I'm going to leave you with that. Please take care of yourselves, take care of each other. I love you guys. Thanks again for being here, and I will see you all next week. Mwah.